Three. Three, two. On today's show, clutch mistakes hold the Dallas Mavericks back, but Max Christie, what role can he play? I'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm here because I have to be here.
Oh my God.
Explain yourself.
Sorry. You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member, WNBA channel manager at Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for being in every day or making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our newsletter, one-stop shop for every news and analysis on the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Joining me, as always, on a post-game. He needed a few minutes to collect himself. The post-game prodigy from the Great Slightly Biased YouTube channel. How you doing, Slightly?
It's true, I did. Did you know that the Dart has 93 miles covered with his light rapid rail system, which is the most in the entire United States? Bet you didn't know that.
I did not know that.
93
miles is a lot.
It is, yeah. Think about it. A lot of potential.
Today's episode, we'll talk about the Mavs loss to the Sixers. We'll talk about the late game mistakes. We'll talk about Max Christie and talk about his role on the Dallas Mavericks. We'll also get into the Quentin Grimes and the Caleb Martin trade. What we thought about that. I think Slightly and I may have different opinions on that trade.
The Kevin Durant trade will
Let's start here.
While we're live.
Yeah, the Kevin Durant trade that will happen while we're recording this. Isaac and I will do another episode about that as well, so watch for that in your feeds as well. Because apparently the Dallas Mavericks have interest in Kevin Durant, and people are saying, watch for Kevin Durant right now. I don't know about that. Let's start here. Max Christie, his Mavs debut, plays 32 minutes, the third most minutes on the Mavericks in this game, which I was surprised by. I did not think that he was going to play that much, but I guess with injuries and PJ Washington out because of the birth of his child and all that, he needed to. Hit 4 threes, 15 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, played some good defense. Tyrese Maxey had a nuts game shooting the ball, but I thought played some good defense all around. He had some clutch plays himself in this game. What'd you see from Max Christie?
Yeah, that was the one thing. I don't know if I mentioned it on this show, but that was the one thing when the trade happened was every friend I have that's a Lakers fan that messaged me, they all said the exact same thing, which was, you guys are going to love Max Christie, though. And you kind of saw that on display tonight. His energy, the athleticism, his defense. It's funny you say, I think he did a pretty good job on Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey scored 33 points, but that's actually holding him below his average over these last 10 games. I mean, Tyrese Maxey's been cooking everybody. So just one of those players right now. But yeah, 4-4 from 3. The shot looks good. He hit that tough fadeaway. I would say Grimes, I think, probably just has a little bit more juice off the bounce at times. There's more self-creation stuff with Grimes. You're like, whoa, that was a pretty impressive shot right there by Grimes than Max Christie does. But I do think Christie, to me, just looks like a better defender. And I think that was the gist I got from a lot of Lakers fans as well. So, an impressive debut from him. I mean, that's definitely a bright spot for the Mavs.
He looks longer than Quentin Grimes. They're listed, like, Christie's listed at 6'6", Grimes 6'5", but Christie just looks like a longer defender. And I like the way he was going over screens and he was navigating that. And I just thought that it was a really, really good debut for him. The 4 threes, man. That's something that he's been really working on since he got put in the starting lineup for the Lakers. If you listen to our crossover Locked On Lakers, they talked about he's hit a 3 in every single game that he started for the Lakers. That's something he's really, really worked on to try and be that 3-and-D player. Shot looks great.
Yeah, looks good. I mean, he did look good. And that's what's going to be asked of him, is to hit threes. And, I think we'll talk about this in a bit. If the Mavs don't make another move between now and the deadline, there might be more asked of him that I'm not entirely sure that he's necessarily capable of, just in terms of needing somebody to do something for you off the dribble. Yeah. A really impressive debut. 9 rebounds too is nothing to sneeze at. Like this is the thing when, I was telling Nick before we recorded, about 80% of the people watching this are probably here out of pure hatred, not for us, but for the Mavericks.
I have a name for those people. Do you know my name for these people?
What?
The Mavsikists.
The Mavsikists. Okay, I like that.
Not the masochists, just for the Mavs.
That might be different.
I've been using that phrase for a long time. They just love to see the Mavs burn.
Yeah, but I would say
it's on a different level now.
A Wizards fan is a masochist. It's there's just something about it that brings me back. I just can't. These people are here out of hatred for the Mavericks now. It's a completely crossed over into pure hatred. But people who are like, oh, defense wins championships. I mean, obviously that quote's going to haunt.
They're missing their 3 starting front court players in this game. Lively and AD's an all defensive player, and and PJ Washington.
If AD comes back on Thursday against the Celtics or Saturday against the Rockets, and those teams pop off, then we can get our jokes off. But it is like there's not a lot to take away from this one, so I do want to say that.
Yeah, for a team game, it's not something you're going to be like, oh man, well they're screwed now. They just lost to the Sixers, and the Sixers aren't good this year. It's like, okay, Sixers had Joel Embiid, who played well in this game. Gafford went out with an injury late, and so Joel Embiid had an easier time playing against the Mavs small ball unit. And then Tyrese Maxey's been on a tear and was awesome in this game. 33 points, 13 assists for him. And like you said, that's even holding him a little bit in this one. Max Christie, late in this game with 5 minutes left, had like a drive fadeaway jumper. That is not something I expected to see in the package of Max Christie.
No. But I mean, I would say maybe don't expect to see that regularly. But that was nice to see. It's always nice when a guy brings that out. I mean, he's 21.
That stretch was a stretch where the Mavs were down by 8? They're down 8 with 8 minutes left. Kyrie came in, post jumper, got fouled, hit 3 free throws. Max Christie hit that fadeaway jumper. And then Max Christie got a big rebound through that outlet pass, a full court outlet pass to Kyrie, who was alone, and got that dunk. And then Christie got another drive, and he kicked it out to Clay for 3. That was a Mavs 9-0 run, got them the lead in the fourth quarter. That run was really important for the Mavericks.
Yeah, and I mean that, especially because it felt like they just really struggled to get stops when Embiid and Maxey were out on the court, just because of how unstoppable Maxey was, and then also Gafford getting into foul trouble and then getting hurt. I mean, I'm really hopeful that's just a stinger. Otherwise things start to look even more bleak. But he was in foul trouble, and then he gets injured. So Embiid played really well offensively. He just doesn't look. He doesn't look. No.
He had a triple double in this game, but it was like the quietest. 29 points, 11 boards, 10 assists.
He was a minus 12 in 36 minutes. Like defensively, I thought he was atrocious. Like he just doesn't move anywhere near the same.
Exum was just driving by him several times, and you're like, that's just not Joel Embiid. And then he gets hit in the face with the Gafford thing, and he has that facial fracture. He wasn't wearing a mask for the first time, and he's down longer. And you're like, man, this guy just it's everything. It's lower body, it's face. It's just there's just so many things with him.
And it sucks because he is like an unreal offensive player. It's just the jump shot that he has at that size is just such a cheat code. But
they should trade him because like I don't think all that stuff's worth it.
I get your joke, but I was about to say I don't know who would trade for. Maybe I don't know a Lively and 7 firsts and whatever contracts make it work. You might as well give the call. You might as well give Nico the call now.
Stupid. It's so stupid. I found myself several times during this game going, I can't believe this team is waiting for Anthony Davis to come back from injury and not waiting for Luka Doncic to come back from injury now. Because we've been watching these games for a month saying, well, we're waiting for Luka to come back. What will this team look like when Luka comes back? And now it's, what will this team look like when Anthony Davis comes back from injury? What the heck?
That's what's funny too, because the Mavs probably would have lost this game anyways because Luka wouldn't have been playing in it. But yeah, that is shocking. And can I just make the hot take I said to you earlier now? Can I just say it now? Because we said that there was no big takeaways team-wise from this game, and ultimately I agree with that, but there is one huge one. And we already knew this kind of. It's if they don't get like a legit ball handler between now and Thursday, this team's in serious danger of not even making the play-in tournament. And I'm being dead serious because you're going to have moments down the stretch like you saw in that last play, or just in general down the stretch where Najee had a bad turnover and then a really bad take. And then he also had a bad take in transition. And then Clay just shot a couple really rough-looking threes where it's just like, you don't have another guy, and Kyrie sees 2 like he did on that final inbounds play, and he has to hurry a pass to Exum, and then Exum's scrambling, and he's fumbling, and the ball all over the place, and the Mavs don't even get a shot off. That's going to be a serious problem, even with AD back. You have to find a perimeter guy, and I don't know who's on the market. I don't know if they trade for Kevin Durant or if that has any actual.
that would be it. That would be the answer.
I mean, listen, I would do that in a millisecond. By the way,
at this point.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, why not? Like, you've already made it clear. Like, you should not have any emotional ties to any of these players. And if you're going to root for this team, you have to accept the fact that I like this guy. He can be traded tomorrow. This guy can be traded tomorrow. This guy can be traded tomorrow. And if it's Kevin Durant, all right, fine. I mean, whatever. We're just a team of mercs.
The problem they've hit is a problem we saw in the fourth quarter of this game. And we're going to talk about why that was a problem and how the Mavs solved that in this rotation, because I agree with you. If the Mavericks don't add a ball handler, they're going to be in the play-in tournament and may not even make the playoffs. Talk about that and more coming up.
I don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Dallas Mavericks. This episode, there's so many episodes all the time. It's brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA because if you're looking for tickets for your next big event, whether it's concert or comedy, theater, sports, like maybe you just are done with the Mavericks and you're still watching this show. I've gotten so many messages that say, man, I'm still listening for you guys, but I don't care about the Mavs anymore. All right, well, go to a concert, go somewhere else, do something else that's completely different because some people have no idea that all this drama is happening with the Mavericks right now. And it's weird to like step out of that bubble for a minute. And with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier to find something. They have curated deals that show up at the top of your feed, show you the best super deals for prime seats at places. You can also get views from your seats. You can see exactly what you're gonna pay at checkout. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guaranteed. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Locked On NBA is the code for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
You facilitating a trade over there?
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Slightly, you said that if the Mavs don't add a ball handler, they're in jeopardy of missing the play-in. I kind of agree with you at this point. And watching this team, the rotation now has an issue with Jason Kidd because Hardy has not leveled up to this point yet, so he didn't even play in this game. Coach's decision didn't play. You've got Najee Marshall, who had been a good ball handler for the Mavericks, who's probably still getting back into his rhythm. He was out with the illness, then he was back, then he was out again. So it may take him a while to get back into that. Maybe he could be a better ball handler, and that could alleviate some of this because there's times in this game where he was just driving just to drive. There was a couple late game mistakes from him where there was one where he drove. Oh, it was the one where Kyrie got the steal. 40 seconds left. Kyrie gets the steal. Najee Marshall drives in transition, and he just tries to go for the bucket when there was a Maverick right behind him. Like, just pass back to the guy behind you. That's an instant bucket, and you're in prime position there. Then 13 seconds left. He had a drive and tried to get fouled, but didn't. Did the Kyrie thing where he tries to avoid contact so much that he just doesn't get the foul. And so maybe Najee Marshall levels up and gets back to his rhythm. But Dinwiddie has not been good enough to be that extra ball handler for the Mavs. Kids trying to put Dante Exum in there. He played, I guess, only 20 minutes in this game, but he closed in this game. And so he's trying to put him in that role. They need a better version of all of what I just said, right? PJ Washington can handle the ball a little here and there, but they're going to need a better version of all of that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, look, everyone in the comment section right now is typing out the same comment, the same joke. Oh, if only there was a 6'8", jumbo-sized ball handler.
Listen. I can't say the word I want to say about you right now, but I want to. We know. We've been saying this. We all hated it. We hated it so much. We still do. The players that the Mavs got and Anthony Davis and Max Christie are good, and we're going to be excited about them, but it doesn't change the fact that, yes, this should be completely different right now.
We are fully aware.
Okay, I'm done.
We know the trade that happened. Okay, we know who's not here anymore. That's why we're talking about who they need to get. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a problem. And you look around the market, and I don't know. Like, I can't. My community's making fun of me because I spent the last weeks being like, I don't know, guys. I think this is going to kind of be a lame deadline. Like, maybe Jimmy Butler, but that's probably it. And it's turned out to be the craziest deadline ever. And Kevin Durant's probably getting traded now. I don't know, but they need to find a way. And it's maybe it is Kevin Durant. You know, I look at the package. I mean, it's funny, but I look at the trade packages, and I don't know if the Suns' goal is to still be competitive around D-Book. The Mavs got contracts to come together are really good role players, and that wouldn't be a terrible return. It just wouldn't. But even if it's the Warriors or something and they're trading guys and there's like 3 or 4 different teams involved, maybe you can swoop in and get a guard there. I don't know, but a guard has to be acquired between now and the trade deadline because you're severely lacking there, and it's going to really hurt you late in games when teams decide, all right, Kyrie's not getting a shot no matter what. Sure, you have AD, but somebody has to pass him the ball. He's not somebody who's just going to have the ball at the top of the key and dribble and do all the things himself.
Yeah, his number one thing that he's done this season in terms of his offense is be the roll man in a pick and roll. So you got to have somebody to run that with him, at least here and there. Bogdanovich for the Hawks is somebody that people have brought up.
I'm not in on that at all.
He's had a weird year and been bad this season, but he's one that, like, okay, he could be available, could be really cheap for you. The Lonzo Ball buyout is an interesting one.
I don't think they buy him out. I buy them at their word on that. They said they wouldn't do it.
I don't buy the Bulls at their word on anything.
True, but We'll see. That could be interesting.
Yeah. The Mavs had too many late game mistakes in this one. I mentioned the couple from Najee Marshall, but Kyrie had a travel with 2 minutes left that was tough. Klay Thompson forced a corner, like a transition corner three that was just a brutal shot.
Definitely
and that one. Wild shot. Kessler Edwards had the turnover. You mentioned as soon as Kyrie gets doubled, everybody kind of like poops their pants. Kessler Edwards did that, and he had like a wide open pass to Najee Marshall and turned it over. And the camera pushes in right to Jason Kidd, and he like literally rolled his eyes and was like, "Oh my god!" Like,
because it is frustrating, especially if you're Jason Kidd. Like you can't make an extra pass to the corner without
he's like
the ball over.
Kid's like, my coaching is going to get blamed for that turnover right there. And it was a wide, like Najee was wide open in the corner.
I had to go back and watch the play, but it looked like Najee was cutting, which I'm like, why would you cut right there? You're literally by yourself wide open in the corner.
But even so, the Kessler passed it behind him. Yeah. Like, even if he was cutting down in the lane, like Kessler should have passed it. And then
for Kessler.
The final play, and he started. The final play started at power forward. That's where the Mavs roster is right now. And the Omax thing. The final play, Kyrie tries to get the ball, may have gotten fouled, but Exum gets the ball and then just completely turns it over. The angles that we got to see, at least on the broadcast, didn't show if Embiid swiped at that ball or got to it, but it just seemed like he kind of just fumbled it.
Yeah, it just felt very rushed. And again, this is the problem. This is the problem we know with Exum. I mean, Exum had, besides that, a fantastic game.
Great.
Like he was awesome. And it, like watching him through the first 19 minutes of his 20 minutes, I was like, oh man, this is a good sight to see with the Mavs current roster makeup. And then the last minute's like, yeah, that's why that guy, didn't play in the playoffs, is because there's moments where it just looks too big and too quick.
Was Dante Exum's game good because we're like, oh, the bulk of the offense is handled? Like we're so used to the bulk of the offense eventually being handled by Luka and Kyrie. But now it's like, okay, the bulk of the offense is not. Like the bulk of the offense is going to be done by some of these guys.
Yep.
And so I think we have to not lower our expectations, but like not be as impressed by some of these role players because they're going to be asked to do more and more.
Yeah, and I mean, their offense is good. This offense isn't going to be very good. Like that, they're going to win games defensively. Like that's just it. But Exum, you can see Exum running a 2-man game with like AD and having Kyrie on the wing or in the corner to space the floor, and that could lead to some interesting stuff. But so that's why it's encouraging to see those first 19 minutes. But it just highlights the need for more down the stretch. He's not a guy that you feel super confident in closing lineups. Just not.
We're at the point now where I'm like, man, if Omax and Hardy would have panned out in a good way, they would have fit these roles the Mavs need so badly. We've been talking about a backup 4 all season. Now we're talking about a ball handler, shooter, somebody like that.
How about Hardy's DNP, and then notably upset on the sideline? It looked like I don't want to be a body language guy, but he did look pretty unhappy.
I mean, you're seeing Kessler Edwards get 23 minutes. You're seeing Exum start and play 20 minutes.
I mean,
Kylo Ren Kelly played 5 minutes, and Hardy couldn't get.
That was bad.
I saw some people on. I saw some people on Twitter calling for why don't they put Kyler Kelly back in after Gafford went out? I'm like, that is not. You don't want that.
Maxey was licking his chops when Kyler Kelly checked in, and God bless him. But man, I'm hopeful that we get a Daniel Gafford update here, because that would be really bad.
It was a really weird play. It happened with just a couple minutes left. He went out. It looked like he was going up for a rebound after Najee Marshall got fouled at the rim, and then he got twisted up in the rebound. Like it was just a really weird play. Like maybe his shoulder just got bent too far back or something like that.
I'm hoping.
He immediately just like hunched over and then went right to the locker room, which is not a great sign. 3 minutes left. I thought Kidd was going to call. He had to use it or lose it timeout. I thought he would use it right there just to give Gafford some more time, but he didn't use it. And there was like no timeouts at the end of this game by either team, which was kind of wild.
I was hoping that I get the idea of call. It's one of those can't win situations for a coach where you call a timeout, you don't call a timeout. I was kind of hoping 22 seconds after those Embiid free throws, right? That's Embiid took free throws, I think, that put them ahead, or whatever happened in 22 seconds where the Mavs.
He got an easy score right at the rim, put him up by 1 with 22 seconds. Mavs took the timeout then.
I was kind of hoping, since Embiid just looked slower on the court, and he was out there the final possession. It wasn't like they were going to take him off the floor, but getting back and pushing some pace without a timeout, I thought that might have been a better option. But again, I'm not going to. I don't want to do the time. That's why I don't do the timeout blame game, because it is kind of a can't win situation a lot of the times.
Oh, I've blamed Kidd for many things. I will not blame him for this game.
Yeah, no.
He's just put in a situation where you're missing your 3 starting front court players. There's and there are a lot of player mistakes late that we just went through, right? All of those were player mistakes, not like setup mistakes. A travel, a forced corner 3. Like, the kid's not drawing up a Klay Thompson forced transition corner 3 with 2 minutes left.
No, and then the messed up part is you told him to shoot those. Like, you brought him in here to shoot. Like, you gotta live with the shots. You know,
You made 3 of 8. Like, that's 8%. That's fine.
Yeah, it's not terrible. But in those moments, those were tough ones. But yeah, I mean, man, this would have been a really big win, I think, just for morale.
Yeah, it was nice to see the videos from shoot around where it seemed like the Mavs were doing Mavs things. They were throwing half court shots or dancing.
And then Grimes got traded, and they're like, "Oh, that's right, we can't have fun. Really, we can't do anything.
Nobody's safe. Nobody is safe apparently from anything." Yeah, we did an episode. I did an episode where I reacted to the Grimes trade. I may have had tears live on the podcast, but with my guy Grimes. But we talked about that. But coming up, Slightly and I are going to get into that. We'll talk about Grimes and Caleb Martin, give our reaction to that trade and what we think now that we've seen the team without. Where does he fit in and all that? Talk about that and more. Come on.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs, and I feel like every episode of Locked On Mavs this week has been brought to you, fittingly, by BetterHelp. The show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are some relationship green flags that you've found? We hear a lot about red flags and trying to figure out, all right, what are the red flags and why should you leave a relationship or stop talking to somebody or whatever? But what are green flags? What are things you look for in a friend, in a partner, in a coworker even that you have relationships with, even just working ones? Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries, improve your communication skills, and find those green flags so that you know what you're looking for in relationships and you know which people to cling to and which people to push away. BetterHelp helps make it easy by offering online therapy for over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. If you need to switch therapists, you can do it at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today. Get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly. We're done talking about that Sixers game. We're done.
All right.
Move on. We're moving forward. The Mavs traded Quentin Grimes. I've got Twitter open. I'm waiting to see it. The Mavs traded Quentin Grimes and the Sixers' own second-round pick to the team that they played tonight for Caleb Martin. And initially, I looked at it and I hated it because I love Quentin Grimes. I've been super high on him this whole season, and I think Quentin Grimes is going to be a better player than Caleb Martin because he's 24. Caleb Martin's 29. We've seen what we're going to get from Caleb Martin. But he does come in, and I will admit that Caleb Martin is a good player. Like he's had some good playoff moments. He'll come in and he can defend up a little bit more than Quentin Grimes can, and so that's something to watch for. And they brought in Max Christie. But you liked this trade. What did you like about it?
Well, to me, it felt more of hey, we actually really like Max Christie, and we think that he's going to be a big piece for us. And it just made sense to me from a trade perspective because Christie, you saw it on display tonight. I mean, him and Grimes would have been pretty redundant next to each other. Now, you could make the argument that, oh, well, you could always have guys like that on your team. And it's like, not really. Like wings, yes. You can't have too many wings on your roster. But those sort of tweener type of guards, when you have multiple of them, it kind of gets awkward because they don't really share the floor together. So Max Christie's here on an incredibly team-friendly deal. I mean, his contract is incredibly
really good.
That's a huge plus for the Mavs. He's only 21 years old. Quentin Grimes, a restricted free agent in the summer. We've sort of talked about that and what his contract could be. I don't really know, but the Mavs probably felt with Christie here, we don't really want to even get to free agency with Grimes. So we turn that into Caleb Martin, a guy who similar size, but plays bigger and definitely can guard up, like you said, and is under contract for the next 3 seasons after this one at a very reasonable price, $8 million a year. So it made sense to me in that, from that perspective. And Caleb Martin being here will help this team out. And, we talked about this team needing a ball handler. I'm just looking at the trade candidates and it kind of fits. He fits in for guys who would probably get traded between now and Thursday.
Yeah, I was listening to our friends Locked On Sixers, Caleb Santiago and Keith Pompey, and they were like, Caleb Martin can fit in so many different ways that you need him to. They said he's played point guard for them at times because the Sixers have had so many guys injured, and he's handled the ball. He's played backup 4, and he started at 4 for them and done so many different things. He started at 4, or he played 4 for the Heat in that finals run, where he was really awesome in that. He can hit a 3. He's very good as a spot up shooter. And so he's going to do stuff for the Mavericks. Like, I don't think this is a terrible trade where I go, man, Nico Harrison gave away a player I like for trash. He didn't do that. But the asset management, where it felt like they played scared again, where they look at Quentin Grimes like, all right, we're not going to be able to re-sign you. So we'll use a second round pick to get somebody that is just cost controlled over the next couple of years. And that's where I was just like, all right, well, this just feels like you're just throwing more assets out at things because you're scared of the offseason.
So a trade like this, I don't really care about a second round pick getting thrown around. And we don't know what Quentin Grimes' market was. But again, I thought, it sucks that Quentin Grimes was here such a short amount of time. But Max Christie being here does change things for you. He just does. And I think Max Christie and Quentin Grimes is a bit redundant, So that makes sense to me. And second round pick part of it, I mean, I don't know. Everyone says he's not worth a second round pick. Well, he clearly was, because that's what he got traded for. Caleb Martin did. So
that's true. No, only take somebody to pay it.
I've seen people say, so you basically traded Tim Hardaway Jr. in 4 seconds for Caleb Martin. No, you didn't. You traded Tim Hardaway Jr. for Caleb Martin and Najee Marshall, because that trade opened up the the mid-level exception, which is the only reason you made that trade. Grimes was a tack-on. Like, that needs to be understood. Grimes was a tack-on in that trade for them opening up the mid-level exception. And Grimes was great here. I'm going to miss him. I think he's a really good player, and he's going to be really good in Philly, I think. Like, he's kind of perfectly fits a need for them. So
he could start next to Maxey.
Yeah, that would be a really good starting. That would be a really solid, 2 guard next to Tyrese Maxey, like a really good one. So
I really think they could do that. But yeah, it sucks for me to see Quentin Grimes go, because
I liked him a lot too. So I don't. It definitely stung.
But Caleb Martin has the experience. Okay, one of the things I said on a reaction show, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. He's part of Heat culture.
That's a bad thing, usually.
Is he going to be good for the culture, though? Because Nico Harrison's trying to build this culture.
The Heat culture guys who are only good in Miami and stuck everywhere else. That's a deep running pipeline, unfortunately.
I'm sure Nico Harrison has talked long into the night about Gabe Vincent with Rob Pelinka.
Yeah. I'm surprised he wasn't in on the deal. We'll take Gabe Vincent over Christie. We
need a ball handler. Let's get somebody.
Would it be funny if let's say the Mavs play the Celtics tomorrow night. You bring in Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin typically goes off against the Celtics, drops 30 points, and then they trade him the next day. Like, we just needed you for one game, buddy. We needed this win badly.
The trade is a good one if he has a moment in the playoffs. That's it to me. That'll make up for it.
So I think there's another aspect to this. Is look, is there a more aggressive front office in the Mavericks currently? I could see arguments for some others, but I'm just thinking over the last 3 calendar years, how many teams have made
Dwight Powell's the only player still on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, you could say the Suns for sure, but that was like they made the big KD trade and then kind of like had to build their roster around that singular trade. The Mavs made the Kyrie trade and then traded away a 25-year-old superstar. I mean, there's not a front office that's maneuvering like this. Like, there's probably not. So I look at Martin being here. Quentin Grimes, restricted free agent in the summer. You could trade him, but it would have to be a sign and trade, and that would be it. Quentin Grimes or Caleb Martin, $8 million. You throw him into another contract. Like, that's part of their thinking, I guarantee you.
The Mavs front office does have motion. I wish they didn't.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh man, I remember we were talking about the trade deadline and the lead up to it like a month ago, and I was like, yeah, I hope they don't do anything. Like, that's,
do you remember? You remember like 2 days ago where Nico Harrison said it'd be easy for me to do nothing. Like, we wish you would have done nothing.
I wish you would have done nothing. We all would have been okay with nothing, honestly. We'd have been mad, but we don't know what we missed out on.
Another actual ball handler candidate. There's a report that the Bulls are weighing the trade options for Kobe White.
I would be interested in that.
That's one I would. That one, like, even more than like a Jordan Clarkson that people always pitch, I'd be way into.
I don't know about Jordan Clarkson at all. I know he doesn't really move me, but I'll
So
say
that's
this.
why I'm saying I would be way more into Kobe White than
Yes,
Jordan
yes,
Clarkson.
agreed.
Yeah.
If the KD rumors, and that didn't surprise me at all. Today, this morning on my stream, I saw a tweet that the KD stuff I get triggered. I said, I guarantee you the Mavericks do something about this. I guarantee you that we at least get a report that the Mavericks should say this. If there is a pathway, you have to do it. Period. You have to
get him.
You have backed yourself into this quarter. Like you have to do it.
Your window is 3 years.
This team's not good enough, and let's just assume you actually win a negotiation for once, and you actually win a negotiation for once, and you keep Derek Lively, right? You look at a starting five of Kyrie,
KD back into his Sonics days, playing the 2.
No, you could go Kyrie, Christie, KD, PJ, Lively. I mean that AD. Or you could go uber big if you wanted to. But that's a team where you look at and you're like, whoa, that's a pretty nasty team.
And they'd still have some. I mean, to get to 50 million, it'd have to be like Clay, Gafford, Najee,
PJ, Najee are in the trade.
I know. I don't want to trade.
That's it. All of those guys are gone. But again, you have backed yourself into this quarter where it is just like you've said you have a 2-year window. And I thought Jeff Skin Wade had a great perspective on this, where he said part of the thinking for the Mavs must have been, this was just him speculating, must have been, look at the Spurs, look at the Thunder. If we're being honest with ourselves, our windows in the next 2 or 3 seasons.
It wouldn't have been if you had a top 3 player in the NBA.
It wouldn't have been, we think, but Kyrie was still going to be old. You would have had to find a second star. So I get what everyone's saying. You're trading away Luka.
Just mad about this window talk.
Guaranteed you shorten your window. Like with Luka there's no guarantee your window's short even if Kyrie retires, because then maybe you can get a D-book or something, or someone else becomes available and you're aggressive then. But now that you have shortened your window, you've done it. There's no 4 years from now.
He's done it. I'm just going to keep saying he's done it. Nobody else.
Yes. I mean, now that he has done it, now that he has shortened the window, if you can get KD, I think you have to do it. You have to.
If you're listening on YouTube or the podcast or on KFAA, subscribe wherever you're watching this. Check the QR code for different ways to follow the show. Slightly Biased, great YouTube channel all the time doing stuff. It's live streams and all that. We've got a bunch of other ways to follow the show. The newsletter, we got the Locked On Mavs text line where you can text us. We'll send any rumor. As soon as the KD rumor happens, as soon as the KD trade happens, we'll send it to you. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We'll be back with more episodes throughout the week. Keep checking back. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom!
Thursday morning, Slightly Biased YouTube channel, live all day to talk about the KD trade.